Yeah, and it can. It certainly can. Um, for us, we recycle it into the compost, so once a week or once every couple of weeks, we'll just pull it out and throw it in the compost pile, and it'll readily break down and be good fertilizer for the gardens. So it's inexpensive. They're actually able to nest with it. They'll actually make a little nest out of the hay, and like I say, most of the time they won't bury the eggs in it. Make it hard to find pigs. You pretty much can use any material. It's more a matter of personal preference and that kind of stuff.
We've got big coons and big possums in our area. We went to Foggy Creek, and they've got these on their chicken coop, and they've got these sort of flashing red lights.
Yes, night guard.
That they put at sort of the eye level of the predators.
Right.
Is that a good idea?
I have not actually used that system. They guarantee it. I know the company that makes them guarantee it. The one thing that they say to do is you have to have one facing in all four directions, so you have to buy at least 4 of them for it to be effective. Or if you've got a coop that's only open on 2 or 3 sides, you have to have one on each side that the coop's open. Personal experience.
I know Carol, and she swears by them, but I put them by my coop, and we got a stake and put them at different heights in all 4 directions, but fairly low, and I still have raccoons. They don't even blink at it. And they get sun because they're solar powered. And so I always look out my kitchen window to make sure that they're on at night. And they're going, but it doesn't stop them.
I think in the city, really, y'all probably have more problems than we do in the country with raccoons.
Yeah.
Just because they've been around, they're used to being around people for one. There's not much that'll get after them, and they just, they have more time to figure things out.
Raccoons.
We just generally don't have as many problems as I hear about in the city. So.
I've got 2 Pyrenees, and I have no problem with them.
That's what we do. We have Great Pyrenees, and once they bond to the chicken, they understand that they're not to get chicken, they'll kill everything that approaches their chicken. Right, including hawks.
Really?
Absolutely.
Your hawk guards too? Yeah. Mine bark at a buzzer or a hawk at a 1/4 mile away.
Really?
Yeah. Great Pyrenees are great for that.
Okay.
And we have chicken tractors, and we have free-range chickens both.
Sure. Pyrenees isn't a solution in this city.
No, it's not a good solution.
Not a good solution.
Not a good solution.
They bark is their primary scary thing off, so they're not a good solution for the city.
I was just wondering if you could speak a little about raising chicks and the process of moving them out to the coop.
Could you repeat that question?
You want to know about raising chicks and then the moving out to the coop? I'll go more based on what we do, and hopefully that'll kind of answer your questions. My background, job-wise, has been automotive, body and paint restoration, those kind of things. And what you can find is the cheapest and just, from my experience, works the best. Most auto body shops, when they get the bumpers for the cars they're working on, they come in huge cardboard boxes that are not only deep, but they're big wide, they're big long. And what we do for the first 2 weeks is we'll put the shavings in the bottom of the boxes with a heat lamp on a tripod up above it, and just elevate the food and water in the box. It keeps the drought down around it. The top stays open. I usually keep them in the garage, except for the summertime. Anytime in the spring, late fall, early spring, we'll keep them in the garage for that time in those boxes, generally for between 4 and 6 weeks. Once they get to about 4 to 6 weeks, they have most of their feathers. They should be fine to go right outside into the coop. If it's going to get real cold, if it's going to get down, I would say lower 50s or lower, then I would either put a heat lamp in the coop or move them back to a sheltered area. The same thing if it's going to be a really strong cold front blow in, a lot of wind blowing, I'd give them some additional protection up to about 2 months of age, 2 to 3 months of age.
I know Andy would answer some comments.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to repeat what he says because he said they're short answers. Andy, you were going to add some comments, please?
Yeah, just a couple of things, some of the questions that were asked about number 1, the cedar shavings.
Cedar shavings.
The issue with the cedar shavings there is, yes, he is correct that the heavy odor the tox doesn't last cedar over, it will actually attack will not attack the liver, but the liver will try to get the toxin removed, and then they'll die of liver failure.
Let me repeat that. Thank you.
Does that also apply to full-size chickens as well?
Not necessarily. I have several members that have coops actually made out of cedar, like you have cedar siding or house, and if that's something that they only have available, or they're looking at buying a cedar dog house to put chickens in, at that point I say, just go for it. At that point, it's probably, a lot of times, especially if it's a molded season, it's not smelling quite like the roses, the cedar or cedar shavings would. So if that's your only choice, wouldn't be my first choice, but if you had found a cedar dog house, for example, you wanted to use for part of your coop, I'd say go for it. But it's some of that's even founded in pine shavings, but we of course recommend pine shavings. A great alternative would be aspen shavings. Unfortunately, they're about twice as much as pine shavings, but that's just to clarify, that's the big problem with the cedar is, yes, the respiratory problems, but the more deadly problem is the liver failure from trying to clean the toxin out. But I would say, I personally would have possibly go with cedar, but not with the baby chicks or the smaller animals, but they just don't have toxin that's released because it's so overwhelming.
Okay, thanks, Andy. We're going to repeat that. So basically, the idea was that the cedar is, in addition to what Josh said about the cedar and the toxicity from inhalation, it's also, do you want to read that?
It's got, basically what he said is that it also can get in the bloodstream, especially in the baby chicks, and the liver will work overtime trying to rid the body of that toxin. And when it does, it'll actually die of liver failure from the liver trying to clean the system out from the toxins that get in the bloodstream. Not so much an issue with the older chickens, and not so much of an issue with building or using a cedar-built coop, but more so with the baby chicks and the young chickens and that getting in their bloodstream.
Thanks, Andy.
And then the second thing about, I had a question about mites.
Mites.